new doesn't have to cost money. It can be free. It can actually be something we already have. New came to mind yesterday because I just started a new notebook, and I love this notebook, and it's like so perfect. The pages are clean and crisp right now. I was even like hesitant to write on the first page because I was like, oof, like I'm starting this new. I'm never going to get this like new feeling. Not ever again, but for a long time, because I used my notebooks for a while. And I was thinking about kind of the sensation of it and how much joy it brought me. I was at the library working, and I looked outside and I was like, this is also like beautiful and wonderful and new, because I've looked out that window many times before, but the leaves were dancing a certain way and the branches were swaying a certain way. And it like connected me with the notion of new in our world when we associate it with things in our modern world, or new experiences or new things, new places. And everything is about that first time, right? Or even if it's like old. I mentioned it to a friend yesterday, and he was like, oh, that makes me think of, how I've been really into some vintage like things. And I was like, yeah, because it's not about the fact that it literally has to be brand new. It's about it being new to us in some way, right? That there's a novelty component to it, that it sparks a new sensation or feeling that we haven't either had before or haven't associated with that experience before. And it made me think of having worked in like marketing for my entire career and brand and strategy related functions, where you're all of it is about trying to convince people to either think a thing, do a thing, want a thing, aspire for something. It's trying to push them in the direction of something different and novel and new, so that they will either spend time or money. And having worked in the industry for so long, it reminds me how what we were trying to do was reverse engineer what was already innate to humans. Because humans love new experiences of all kinds. Even like trying something, like your taste buds touch something for the first time that they haven't had before. Whether it's going to like a new place that you haven't been before, or doing something with someone you love and care about that you haven't done before. We're so oriented around that sense of discovery and exploration and sensation that's different, that all marketing and advertising was doing was taking that already innate human thing and translating it and creating processes and structure around it so that they can translate that very basic desire and function and behavior in humans to then purchasing, right? Getting them to want to buy or spend time with a thing. And now we're so conditioned to be like, we only get the new experience when we like go to a new country. Why people have their country lists, like 47 counting. It's like, who cares? What did you experience? That's a separate topic that I can rant on forever. Or when you buy, like a new like phone, and you're just like, oh, I get to set it up, I get to play with it, it's so new, it's unscratched, it's all these things. Or a new toy of any kind, whether it's a car, whether it's something large like a home, and you step into it and you're just like, I'm gonna like decorate it this way. Or if it's even just a book, like I love the feeling of buying a new book and you're like, these pages haven't been opened, they haven't been like earmarked and like written on. But it doesn't have to be new physically. It doesn't even have to be a thing. Because if we recognize where we derive that value, and where so many of us are now thinking about, can we ever make the money that we want, live the life that we want, retire the way that we want, buy the things that we want, have the luxury lifestyle that consumerism and capitalism tells us we need to want, or corporations really, we can come back to the root thing that gives us that sensation. Because if the sensation is novelty and discovery and exploration, we can do that every single day. I get the satisfaction from looking outside my window and looking at the trees like a different part of it, because every day they're moving and changing. Every day the leaves are a little different. Every day the lights hit them differently. And so being able to tap in to the sensation of new, actually in a way that's sustainable, that doesn't require dollars spent, that doesn't require going somewhere, that doesn't require the attainment or the consumption of something. If we know how to tap that source at all times, it becomes limitless to us, right? Because it's an it's an unperishable, kind of unperishable, but it's not a finite resource because we know how to generate it, and it is regenerative. Because seeing, for example, I saw my best friend last night, and this is when we were having the discussion, I was sharing this thought, but we watched a movie that I've never seen before, and we put together this whole indoor picnic spread that we've never done together before. And while we may have eaten most of those things before at different points in time, it was in a different experience. And so we were able to do a thing that I'm like, this is novel, right? And this is wonderful. And it gives me that sensation of new without needing to attain anything new. Or maybe not, I mean, he bought some things, so I had some things and he bought some things, so money was spent. But I just use that as an example of being able to tap our everyday experiences and recognizing what is valuable about the human experience. And discovery and adventure and novelty is incredibly important to the human experience. For us to feel like we're progressing, we're learning, we're being challenged, we're living. And when we get into a routine of repetition and the same things over and over, we can either see that as boring and how our life is just the same thing over and over, or even if you have to do those things every day, being able to look at it with a new lens of, what if I took a different route today? What if I didn't, wear if I dressed a certain way that made me feel something different? What if I didn't wear makeup out the door, which is a whole other rant I could go on, because when did it happen that women can't go out in the streets with their normal faces? Why do you have to put on a face? Sidebar. Or it could be walking down a street and noticing something new on your block. It could be staying for a moment and observing someone you love and care about and noticing something new about them. There are ways for us to engage our sense of discovery and exploration and novelty in the everyday that does not cost anything. So that when we are prompted by corporations to want things, to desire things, to crave more, feel like we're not enough, we can counteract that with some of these other things that are but I get so many new experiences in my life. I don't need this. I want this because I just feel like I want it right now and it feels novel, but I get so many novel experiences in my everyday, I actually don't need this to satisfy that right now. I don't mean to say we never buy a thing again, but it gives us more mental tools to combat the ways in which we're constantly being programmed to feel like new has to cost and new has to be different from what we already have, or that new is more, or that new is beyond what we currently have the means to attain. Because if we do get caught in that, the only answer is more fill in the blank, right? More money, more stuff, more assets, more retirement, more gadgets, more toys, more countries to add to the list and check off, more products to buy, more clothes for every season that we need. It's endless. But having some mental frameworks to combat that, and having an understanding of where new and novelty comes from for ourselves and where we experience that the most, and how we can get that and get that feeling that we're actually after, because it's not often the thing that we're after, it's how those things make us feel that we're after. And if those are already innate to the human experience, and those are already natural human behaviors, then it's basically undoing what all the marketers and advertisers and strategists have done, and other corporations have very, very strategically and thoughtfully and with high fidelity done, really just mean like they're very effective at doing this because they've spent billions of dollars to do this, is to make us think that it has to come from outside of ourselves, that exploration and adventure is going to come in the form of this soda or this bag or this trip. And even if it may, it's just being able to balance that with the knowledge and the practice of connecting to novelty at its very basic, natural, flowered level, right? It doesn't need the trappings of all this shit on it. It can just be in its most natural state. And like I said, it could be the leaves outside. It could be the way the sun feels on your skin that day. It can be anything. And so if we can start to identify the novelty and the newness in our experience with the world and with others, we just won't feel the void as much and won't be as susceptible to needing to feel, to needing to fill it with stuff that we most likely don't need. We may want, but we likely don't need. And so if we can fuel ourselves from the most regenerative source, which is our own experience and our own mindset, which we can really change and evolve at any point if we so chose, then we don't need the stuff, right? Then the stuff that comes in can be entirely of our choosing because we truly want it for some function or some experience that is additive, but is not about trying to soothe some inner missing or inner lack that we feel like we have. It also makes the day a lot easier to feel good and fulfilling because it doesn't matter what happens and it doesn't matter what we have if we know how to tap into the things that ultimately matter to us. And if novelty and newness is something we're seeking, which we all are at different points in life, then to know that I can get that at any point in time is incredibly relieving because it's always available. And thus, I'm never in a position where I can't get it and feel like I'm not enough or I need more in order to get it.